Thank you very much, John, and Deputy Secretary Burns, and my friend Congressman Dutch Ruppersberger. Let me thank the Kingdom of Bahrain for hosting us so generously, and I'm very honored that you would invite not one but two members of Congress to speak with you this morning. And in case you didn't know, the approval rating of Congress in the United States is at 10%. At this point, we're down to paid staff and blood relatives. I'm looking forward to meeting someone in my constituency in the 10% who approve of Congress, because I'd like to ask them what the hell it is they approve of. But anyway, one of the benefits of growing old as I am is that provides great perspective. And I was thinking on the way over here, I can't recall a period of greater upheaval and uncertainty in this part of the world, certainly not in my lifetime, and possibly not since the fall of the Ottoman Empire. The last time this conference was held 2 years ago, as you well know, Ben Ali was in power in Tunisia, Mubarak in Egypt, Gaddafi in Libya, Saleh in Yemen, and with any luck, next year we'll be able to add Bashar Assad to that list. During this past 2 years, I have traveled extensively throughout the Middle East, North Africa, and the Gulf. It's increasingly clear to me that this region is at a crossroads between two very different alternative futures. One of those futures is hopeful and positive. It could reflect all that's good and inspiring and promising about the Arab Spring. It could be built on the overwhelming desire of millions and millions of people in this region, especially young people, for greater human rights, rule of law, opportunity, and democracy. It could be a future where diverse societies are at peace with themselves, where all nations respect the sovereignty and independence of their neighbors, and where enduring security rests on the reality of justice and freedom and the security of all citizens. I thought His Royal Highness the Crown Prince described much of this vision well in his speech last night. There's another possibility, a future of gathering darkness, conflict, and stagnation. In this scenario, the collapse of Syria into a failed state overrun by violent extremists of all sects and ethnicities could destabilize the entire region, reigniting civil conflict in Iraq and Lebanon and threatening the survival of the Kingdom of Jordan. Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapons capability, which continues to move forward despite sanctions and other disruptions, could finally be realized, setting off a nuclear arms race in this region. Egypt, in many ways, the heart and soul of the Arab world, could become mired in civil strife that tears apart Egyptian society and suffocates Egypt's economy. In this world, the promise of two states, Israel and Palestine living side by side in peace and security, would surely fade away and ultimately vanish altogether. I can envision either of these two alternative futures coming to pass, but what's so unsettling is how entirely possible either scenario is. Which future we ultimately are faced with in this region will be a function of many factors, but one factor above all is the role of the United States of America. Now, I certainly would not overstate the ability and the wisdom of the United States to influence events in this part of the world positively, nor the desire of people here for us to do so. But the greater danger now, I fear, is understating the ability that America still has to help our friends and allies here to shape events in their region for the better. This is a message I hear again and again as I travel throughout this region. I hear it from our partners in governments and legislatures, in the business community, in the military and security services, and among civil society and opposition groups. So many of them want greater U.S. engagement and leadership on behalf of the interests and values we share. And unfortunately, there is a visceral sense among so many of the people and leaders I meet in this region that they're not getting as much support from the United States as they desire. There's a perception here that the United States is withdrawing from this part of the world and seeking to pivot instead to other priorities elsewhere. This is the perception I have detected here in the Gulf, where greater U.S. support really is an existential matter with regional threats looming. This is the perception in Libya, where the Libyan people do not want to live at the mercy of militias and extremist groups, and do want greater support and assistance in fostering democratic institutions and the rule of law and building national security forces. This is the perception in Syria, where everything that people said would happen if we didn't intervene now has happened because we have not intervened. Growing radicalization, sectarian conflict, the collapse of the state, and now, the specter of chemical or biological weapons being used. And this is the perception among so many civil society and opposition groups, including here in Bahrain, who recognize that America has national interests that it must look after, but who want America nonetheless to speak up more and more often on behalf of their peaceful democratic aspirations. This perception that the United States is disinterested, disengaged, or distracted can be very dangerous. It could lead to our enemies to test America's commitment to our friends and allies in this region, though through even more threatening actions. And it could bolster the more radical or hardline elements among our friends who say they must take matters entirely into their own hands because America can't be trusted. None of us on this stage wants that to happen. But I'll talk straight with you. It's difficult to convince the American people right now, both Republicans and Democrats, that we need to be doing more in the world, not less, whether it's in this region or any other. It's difficult when American war weariness and our own domestic and economic challenges lead to a general reluctance to embrace greater international commitments. It's difficult, if not impossible, but we need greater leadership. There have always been tensions within both our political parties between internationalists and those who want minimal U.S. involvement in world affairs. Those internal tensions are now as present as ever, especially in the Congress. And that makes it all the more important for the internationalists in America to support and strengthen one another. I want to work with my Democrat colleagues, especially the President, to ensure that this region can progress toward a more hopeful and peaceful future that all of us seek. And if the President does the right thing, if he leads and takes greater actions to support our friends, our interests, and our values in Syria, Libya, or anywhere else, he will certainly have my support.